Hi. Before I start the summary, I'm Badhwar. I'm in the Diversity and Gender SIG committee, sorry. But I wanted to thank Lucina for organizing our first ever diversity symposium. And because it's our first ever, we chose a topic which is looking at neuroscience and psychology data to address diversity issues, but we are hoping to have this symposium every year, and we would love to have recommendations from the audience. So if we didn't cover a topic this year, we are sure to cover it in the future. A quick summary of what we discussed today. Just can figure out how this thing moves. Sorry, is there a button? Oh, there we go. Okay, so Sarah spoke about gender bias in science, and specifically neuroscience, and she touched on, okay, got it, academic life, and it is quite biased as far as gender is concerned, with a bias towards selecting men. We can see this bias quite clearly as far as getting hired as a faculty is concerned, funding, publications. Most editorial board members are men, especially the journal editors. And as Sarah pointed out, even though it might seem that women have similar publications to men, that balance really changes when we look at last author papers, prize awardees, seminar speakers, or conference speakers. We start seeing more and more men in those categories. So what is the impact of this bias? The first and foremost impact would be a dropout of researchers, especially women, from going to those leadership roles as in the faculty member or higher. It does impact the team performance, because at that point we're only seeing input from half of the population and not the second half, so the team dynamic changes. And if we did have a 50-50, maybe the science produced would be a lot different than it is today. We also need proper research representation, because as Sarah pointed out, our field is going into AI. We can't avoid it. And if we are already seeing biases for little things like who's a doctor and who's a nurse, imagine what it would do to our scientific findings if the data is skewed. So those are the negatives. I would like to highlight the positive, which is promoting diversity, so it's a bigger circle. And it can be done both at the institutional and organization levels. It's simple. Simple in the sense that they both follow similar kind of training. You make yourself aware to biases. Maybe even go into the blind review mode. A lot of organizations, in addition to OHBM, are talking about it. I just attended the ISMRM meeting where they were discussing double-blind reviews for their journals. So those kind of things should be brought in order to get rid of the gender bias in neuroscience. Then we had Gina, who talked about social drivers in our social brain, and brought up the concepts of are women unsuitable for STEM because of their particular skill sets, their personality types or preferences, which would be a bit scary because those things aren't really that modifiable, so I really hope that's not the case. And the other alternative to that was, is STEM unsuitable for women? Is this a harsh environment that we are creating, and we can retain our women scientists? And the main factors there would be it's a male domain, and the climate is chilly. We are not very welcoming to women. Gina also talked a lot about the neuroimaging aspect of the social drivers of diversity. We talk about women, but this applies to, of course, ethnicity, gender, race, class, and there we're kind of raised from birth in a social scripts, roles, and stereotypes that we are trained to follow. And that does have an effect of the brain. It has been studied in several neuroimaging studies, as Gina pointed out. And there are also factors like in-group membership, so exception, rejection models, as well as self-criticism and assurance. All these factors playing together does create an environment where we are not quite equal in our distribution of researchers in this room. So what do we see going forward? We do need to merge we do need to go towards interdisciplinary research, and Annalise pointed this out, because at this point there seems to be a bit of the case of the two solitudes. I come from Quebec, so it's a big phrase there. Sex and gender and feminist studies tend to stay on one side, whereas neuroimaging studies are formatted differently. And the goal here is to really combine the two and go towards more interdisciplinary research, but will of course require development of newer methods and even ways of addressing questions and designing paradigms and choice of statistical methods that are not coming from a biased viewpoint. So this, I hope, is the way forward, and I know most of our speakers are working on that. And I end with that. I hope you guys have typed a lot of questions, and if not, there's still time, but this is the question and discussion period. Thanks.